already kicked it off.
We're off. Hello and welcome to another episode of GrangeTV. We have with us two very special guests, Martin Nguyen and one of his coaches, Chrysler, who I've had the pleasure of training with at Gracie's Meet in Grange. Martin is the current featherweight champion at 1FC, but he held both belts, featherweight and lightweight, and he also challenged for the bantamweight belt. So he came very, very close to holding all three belts, and the decision that he lost was a split decision to one of my favorite all-time fighters, is Bibiano Fernandez. So, mate, and Chrysler has been on the journey with Martin the whole way through. So that's the kind of company that we are in this evening, people. So thank you very much, guys, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey, Fab, thanks for having us. Finally here, Fab. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I've been wanting to do this for ages, but it's one of those things, man. Like I say this, every single person that I know, like Richie Vass, Mark Matthews, I've known them for years, and I had them on the show as well. It always ends up like, you know, people, and you're like, oh, I'll get, there's no problem, I'll do that. Like even Jacob, guys that we train with, but you don't end up getting people on that you know, because you're like, I can do that whenever, but you don't.
I speak to him every day. I see him every day. Like I can do it later on. Let's get the other guys on. I get that.
And then so eventually, finally we did it. But
we're here.
Man, the biggest thing as well with this, and I really appreciate both of you, because for those that don't know and people that watch this later on, this is fight week, man. This is not. This is so like you're fighting in 5 days.
Yeah, 4 days. 4 days coming. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Tell us, because this is COVID. Can you tell us what's going on and what's different this time, and why we're able to do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us what it's like, and what's COVID like, and you guys flying backwards and forwards, and your training schedules, the stuff we spoke about off air, I suppose. Yeah,
basically, if you guys see Chrysler on the screen there, he's in the next room to me, right across from us. We're currently in Singapore under strict restrictions that we can't leave our rooms only unless it's for training or media obligations. So realistically, we're stuck in a box until fight time. We get the pleasures of training. That's why you have to book everything online. If you're going to train in the morning and you're going to train at night, it's first in, best dress. There's like 28 fighters here, over four events that they're going to be holding on. So it's a crazy fight week, but I'm really, really thankful. I'm really, really glad that we actually get to compete again. For me, it was hard leaving Australia. This whole COVID situation, the borders had closed down. So I had to apply for exemptions and everything like that, just to leave the country to do my fight camp. I choose to put all my eggs in a basket when it comes to fight camps now. And I go to my team in Florida, which is Sanford MMA. So I'm thankful to have Chrysler at home, and we do our fundamental training at UFC gym in Gregory Hills. But when it comes to fight camps, I don't want to mess around no more and leave anything to chance. I go and train under the best coaches in the world, and with the best training partners that I can find that are my size, and world class, that have world class credentials. So I go to Sanford MMA and we do our thing there, and usually I'll come back to Australia to quarantine, just to climatize for about a week before we fly out to fight week, because Australia is very close to Asia, so it's not that much of a time difference. But in terms of going back home, usually I just relax with my family for a week, taper down of the fight camp. It's been hard 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks. I usually taper down for about a week, but this time I couldn't. I had to fly straight from Florida straight to fight week. So here we are.
So how did this happen with you guys? How did the relationship occur between the two of you?
Yeah, so how Chrysler and I met, I just signed one championship. I just had my first fight. And in that first fight, I realized that all I had was just my wrestling game, jiu-jitsu game. And I was at the next stage of my career where I really needed to evolve. I really needed to step up from the local scene. Not saying there was anything wrong with the local scene and the training. I just needed to amp up as a martial artist and move up to the next level. And so in saying that, I needed a striking coach. I really needed a striking trainer who can help elevate me. And at the time, Kreisler's brother-in-law, his little brother was training at the gym at the time, and they introduced. I was training under Faris Alievsky at KMA Top Team, and yeah, introduced Kreisler to me, and Kreisler thought it was just one PT session, but man, we're ride or die now.
That's crazy. If you asked me like 5-6 years ago where I'm going to be, he wasn't going to be here. Yeah, right now. I never believe we'll have like that journey that we went through from 2 titles to 2 division. But from the beginning, it was the best. From the journey, from the get go. We climbed the mountains. We did 10 rounders for 5 minutes.
Right, man. We've done everything right, from fundamentals to like all basic stuff to learning new stuff and capitalizing on the strengths that we kind of had.
What's the role now? Like, what happens now? Like, do you do your training completely with Henry over there? And then completely different with Kreisler, or is there still communication between Kreisler and Henry and whatnot?
I'm sure Kreisler and Henry speak, but when we're over there, when I'm home, it's strictly under Kreisler, and it's all like, yeah, I do talk to Henry, and he does post a few videos that we work fundamentals with our team at home, but yeah, with all my pre-camps, so usually I have about a 3 to 4 week pre-camp. That's all under Kreisler. He gets me all set and prepared for when I go over to Florida. Man, it's like a jungle over there. You know, you mix with other lions, and they want to eat, so you got to be on their level. You know, it's a kill or be killed training room, and the videos that you see on YouTube of the old days of the Black Zillions sparring and the Hard Knocks 365 sparring. That's raw, man. That's is what it is. That's not put on because the cameras are around. That's them. These guys come in and they want to kill. Yeah, they train smart, and if they know that they hurt you, they'll taper it down. But it's a kill or be killed world in that gym, man. But when I'm at Sanford MMA, we got 3 coaches, 4 coaches we work under. So we got MMA with Kami Bazani. He worked exclusively with Robbie Lawler, Jorge Masvidal. He was the Australian American Top Team head coach before Mike Brown. So he came over to Sanford MMA, and we got Division 1 wrestler Greg Jones, and also Henry Hoof under striking, and our strength and conditioning coach is Corey Peacock. So we get the best of all 4 worlds of what they master in, and they mold us into the athletes we are today, and they make sure that we're ready. That's the main thing. And
then what about? So do you have communication with Henry, or do you just run it all yourself here independently in Australia? And then you go, and then Martin goes over to Henry. That's to you, Kreisler.
Oh, yeah. When Martin's here, we have a small team. UFC gym at Gregory Hills, and we do kickboxing drills there. Martin does his drills, and then we do our drills in the cage. We've got a group together, and it's pretty much.
Yeah, it's more like our team thing. So Kreisler does communicate with Henry, but in terms of when I'm at home and there's not we don't really need to be anything specific. We just do our own thing, but make sure we do the fundamentals right. We do our cage wrestling, we do our jiu-jitsu, and we do our striking. That's the main 3 things. Obviously, the conditioning I keep up with Corey Peacock. He gives me programs in which me and the boys. There's about 10 of us that we do, all of us together. So that conditioning program is like so good that it makes us look like bodybuilders.
Good, perfect. Hey, all right, cool. So who was Martin before you signed? Like before you started to really take off? What were you doing?
I was working full-time mechanic. I fix cars for a living. I had my son at the time, and we just had my daughter when I started mixed martial arts in general. But more importantly, I was doing jiu-jitsu and just normal Muay Thai just to get into it, to lose weight. I was 86 kilos when I first started.
86. Were you like jacked?
I was stocky, just stocky. It wasn't shredded, no tone, no nothing. It was just like, everything was just like filled out. I was filled out, but I was short and stocky, so I was realistically fat. And like I just had done it. I just got married, gained a whole bunch of weight, had 2 kids, and I needed to lose weight. I had to stop doing rugby league because it was just the injuries was getting too much, and there was times where I couldn't work and I needed to provide. So I had to give rugby league up. I lived and breathed rugby league.
What level did you play? What level rugby league?
I played Harold Mats, and we got into SG ball.
So you played SG ball?
Yeah.
SG
ball. That's for West Magpies. So at that age, I was 18 years old, and I had to give up.
What year were you at West? Because I was coaching at West for a bit.
It was, when did I stop? Was that 2008, 6? No, 8, around 8, around 2008. I was training under Mick.
I think I started there in 2012.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I think that like there was a whole bunch.
What was that? 18, 2008? Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Because for those people that don't know, SG Ball is like it's first grade rugby league, but under 18. So it's like playing whatever youth divisional in whatever country you're playing, whether it's soccer or basketball, whatever.
I reached that stage, yeah.
Yeah, for the top team, but in their juvenile ranks. So Martin played as a under 18s, which is a big level here in Australia. It's a big deal. What position did you play?
I played halfback. So I was the main head honcho controlling the forwards and that.
So, and how heavy were you when you were playing rugby league?
So when I played rugby league, walking around, I was maybe about 70 at halfback. I was 70 kilos max, absolute max. And you got these islanders that are like 110 kilos, run like Usain Bolt at you, and you're like, you throw your body on the line because your teammates have got your back, but when you're dislocating shoulders every game, it's no good.
And when you're in the line like that, and like the Islanders, not just the Islanders, there's big kids in general, but the Islanders are like, if you weigh 70 kilos, I think Izzy Fitikefu that from the gym. Yeah, he's like short guy. He's probably only about your height, but we were talking before, and he was like 90 kilos in year 6. And he just stayed the same weight his whole way through. But he played like all the way to 20s, and you just think like you're a fucking kid, normal kid. You're 70 kilos, which is not small for an 18-year-old. Like it's decent size, and you're short, so you would have been like a big kid, and that's like a fucking 14-year-old Islander kid that just probably doesn't even play a sport. Yeah, doesn't even play a sport.
100%.
And when you're in the line, they're going to pick the little Asian guy to run it. That'll be the whole team play.
Yeah, always. And I always notice it too. I'm like, whenever they got the ball in my head, I always thought to myself, and I still always have flashbacks. I'm like, this guy's going to run at me. So I every single time that I know that it's going to that side, I was like, boys, come closer. He's going to run at me at that. And then when I do throw my body at the line, like they trip over me and the guys just fall on top of them. I'm like, thank God. And
so you stopped at under 18s. You stopped after that. You finished that season?
Yes, I did.
And how bad were the shoulder dislocations?
So we finished that, and then I had to actually leave. I left the team because it was just I couldn't stay. I couldn't play. And then it came to a point where I finished off C grade at who was it? It was Mianis. I played for Mianis my last year, and then after that I was just like, I can't do it. I really can't do it. I'd fall asleep, and when I wake up, my shoulder would be dislocated. And I'll be like, oh, I got to roll on that angle, and then it'll pop back in. And I'm like, oh, I got to keep this shoulder like very close to me. So it came to a point where, it was dislocating during my sleep, and I was saying, this is ridiculous. Like I've spent now a whole year of dislocating shoulders, and then you have fractured fingers, and then like you'd have like bum knees from just knee clashes and stud marks, and I was just like, it came to a point I was just over it completely. And I still love the game, and I still love the game to this day, and I miss it so much. But it was just more of a health and work. I was working, and I was like, man, I can't provide. I go to work, and I have no power to unscrew a bolt because of a dislocated shoulder. So I was like, man, I can't do this. And I went into rehab. I started lifting weights for about 2 years, man. And from there.
Do you have problems now?
No, never. Knocked on wood. Haven't dislocated my shoulder since I started at KMA back when I was like 20 years old.
Okay.
So it's about 10 years now, 11 years.
Because I will get back to that in a sec. But I played C grade as well, and I was going to say to you, C grade, when you play C grade compared to SG ball, like C grade, it's rough. It's rough. It's rougher.
It's so much more rougher.
It's way rougher because
it's not unintelligent.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got, with no disrespect to anyone, but it's a lot of guys that didn't make it, and they're just playing, and there's usually a fight every week without a doubt. and the fights are bad because like they're big guys, like they're big dudes, and the shots are coming from
everywhere,
every angle, you know, like, and especially if you played like at Mounties and Cabra, Kenley Vale,
man,
Layla Park, Fairfield United, all that area was
very rough.
Yeah, Wentworthville, Balcombe Hills. That's the comp.
Guildford, Guildford, Cabra,
That's
all these teams.
All the tourist spots. All the all the fucking tourist spots.
It was rough. I'm telling you, there was a fight every week, 100%.
And even then, I think like when you have something that you want to do, like if you want to play footy, or not play footy, if you're working and everything, that kind of rugby league is when you have to start asking yourself, like, am I going to go C grade, A grade, and maybe Ron Massey or something?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to work my way up, or am I putting my body on the line? Because like C grade, the injuries are there for maybe $50 a week, if that, you know.
Yeah. I wasn't even getting paid. We weren't even getting paid as C graders back then. We just, we went in and we fought for free, basically. The crowd had a fight for free, pay-per-view, no pay-per-view.
Yeah,
man, it was rough. And exactly that, like, it came to the part where C grade was rough, man. It was really, really rough. And you kind of talk to yourself, and you're like, man, like, I'm 18 years old, I'm playing C grade. Am I going to make like the 20s? Am I going to make it to the A grade? Am I going to get that opportunity again like I did from Howard Master to SG ball? Like you start doubting yourself, and at that stage I was like, yeah, man, it was just, it came too much, way too much. So
C grade, for those that don't know, I believe is under 19s, and it's
18, 19s.
Yeah, it's like park football, but the level is still pretty good because like everyone's young and they're kind of, but it's a kind of mishmash of kids that will probably might be able to go on, guys that aren't going to go on, and guys that are just there to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just
because the boys are there, basically.
Yeah. It's just a mishmash of that. So it's quite rough, and so you're waiting to get injured, really. I think in C grade, especially if you're a little guy, like you're not like a big dude.
I was the smallest guy on the team, without a doubt.
Fuck. Did you play football, Chrysler?
Well, I came from like Kingsgrove High School, and I was really big they were big in the league. We had Anthony Mundine, we had like Lance Thompson, and I think I did go on a trial. I think back maybe I was in year 8. I actually played. I had to borrow my stepbrother's football gear because he was playing for Holy Cross Ride, and they were one of the good best players around there, and he lent me his gear. And it was a trial back in my school in the yards, and I put the thing on because I was small. So the guy, one other coach, put me on the wing. The first time I had the ball, the guy came running at me and just gave me a fucking clothesline. I went backwards, man. That was the last time I played it. But I still managed to get in the team. But I never got into like any playtime during the actual comp.
Yeah, but You got to travel with the team. That's what counts.
That's it.
That's it, man. You got the day off school.
Rugby
Bro, I'll
league
never
is
forget that close. I did.
rugby league is a
clothesline.
fucking tough sport, man. And if you're not big and fast, man, I don't know. You better be really religious or something because you're fucked.
I don't know why I did it.
It's interesting you say. Is it your right shoulder, Martin, that would get dislocated a lot?
Yeah, my right shoulder, and it happened during high school, year 11. Recess, we'd play league, but it's not. We're not meant to tackle, but boys, when our testosterone levels get a bit high, a touch game or two-hand touch game or grab game always turns into tackle. And just at one time, my own teammate from weekend football, we went to school together. He ran the ball, and he usually doesn't run that hard. And for me, I was just like, okay, I'll just tackle the legs. And I went to go for the legs, and my shoulder felt like it completely ripped apart. And I was on the ground. I was like, what's going on with my arm? Like, I was in shock. I was like, everything was numb. I started sweating. It was a cold day. I started sweating. I was like, what's going on with my arm? My whole shoulder's gone numb, and I couldn't move it. I can only move it like this direction. It was out. And then after Tony Williams at that time, because we were playing with those, Tony Williams came over. He goes, I get this problem all the time. And he grabbed my arm, and as soon as he touched my elbow, it popped back in, and I was like, oh, what was that? He goes, what? He goes, what did I do? Like that. And I was like, I don't know. I can move it. I can have that range now, but it's sore as shit. And then since then, that day, I went to training that night, and it dislocated again. In a weekend game, it dislocated again, and I was like, man, this is no good. I don't know what's wrong with it. And then, I was deemed for shoulder reconstruction, but being 16 at the time, 17 at the time, I was like, man, I ain't gonna have surgery. Like, I thought I was invincible, and so I didn't go through with it.
Because the irony that you have is that you're, correct me if I'm wrong, your main punch is that like kind of overhand right.
Yeah, the right hand.
Yeah, but it's kind of, it's not like a straight right hand. It's kind of like loops a little bit, like
comes over the top.
Yeah, and you have a lot of power in that. Can you talk about that? Is that, and Chrysler, I suppose for sure you'd be a better one to talk. Is that, how did that punch occur? Like, is that something that you've always had? Is that God-given? How much work did put into it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Because you do it quite well. But that's also the shoulder that you fucked. That's why I'm curious.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Martin did tell me he had a record as a javelin thrower, didn't he? With his right.
I still hold the record.
What school?
Why?
What school?
School was it?
Liverpool Boys High School in year 7. It was like 12-year-olds or 13-year-olds. I still hold to this day the longest javelin throw.
Okay. Well, but there is a correlation to that for sure, because that's your ability to, like you obviously have a lot of power in that hand, which another thing I was going to say, which is rare at the lighter weights to carry that knockout power. Not a lot of people do. And I was watching that the whole time, and I was thinking, because there's a now Gaethje just fought yesterday, and he's got like a really peculiar way that he throws his punch, like just the way he throws it, and it's a very like a throwing,
aggressive.
Yeah, and it's a very throwing action, and it ends up he was a quarterback and a pitcher his whole time growing up, and that's like that talent to have that same thing that you have to, because the way you throw it, you can tell that there's a power there that's you can't really train that. Now you say that you've always had that, obviously being able to throw the javelin. That's very interesting. Did you notice that he had power in that hand?
Oh yeah, for sure. Every time we hit pads, I think he favors the right hand a lot more. When I first trained with him, he was using a lot of right hands, and so that's when he didn't know what jab was. He didn't know what left hand was. And because he favors that right hand and just take down so much. I think now he kind of sets it up now with his right hand. The right hand travels from the top to the bottom. Yeah.
10,000 jabs in one session. Oh, man.
I think he dislocated the other arm now.
Yeah, I almost dislocated my shoulder. Oh, Jesus.
But you do cover a lot of distance with that right hand as well, with the timing. I noticed that it's just, there's something in the angle in which you throw it as well. Like, one, you're countering the guy and you've got that good timing to counter it, but you seem to cover a lot of distance with that right hand, like exactly like what Chrysler was saying then. That timing and that ability to cover that distance, is that something you guys worked on, or is that something that you always had?
Never had that, man. Everything I know started from Chrysler, from timing to reaction to the fundamentals of just the sweet science of boxing. Realistically, I never knew an ounce of just an overhand takedown. But in saying that, like the overhands, I personally, I know I hit hard because the record shows for itself, but I don't really intentionally throw over the top where it puts me completely off balance. I throw it, and whenever I throw it, it always hits them. I always get on like an angle. It's always the punches that you don't see coming really hurts the most. And I think just the angle and the countering and the timing of the reactions is what gets my opponents off guard, mainly anyway.
What do you think, Chrysler?
I think Martin has a good instinct and timing. He does surprise people with it. They don't see it coming because he put a lot of weight in that right hand. But the most important part is I think it's just the timing and the reaction. It's one of those things where it's hard to read. And if you can read your opponent very well, Martin's going to throw it and you won't see it coming. And lucky he's got that really right hand.
Talk us through
the speed coming down.
Talk us through the difference talk us through, Chrysler, the difference between someone that you're doing the pads with, they're good, and then someone maybe like a Martin that comes in and they're raw, but like you said, like you can feel there's certain differences, not just physical, but perhaps the fact that you said jab, 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 and a lot of guys will be like, nah, I don't want to jab, I want to do fucking spinning back fists today.
Back fist. Well, the fundamental is very important. What I learned is from one of my boxing trainer, Joe LaFella, shout out to him.
From Kingsgrove, from the Lions Den.
Yeah.
I used to box there with him when I was like 18.
Did you?
Yeah.
It was just his birthday the other day too. I sent him a message.
Fucking everyone's trained with Joe, Everyone in Sydney.
Yeah. Everyone knows Joe. He's gold. Yeah, I think even took Martin over there.
Killed me, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was our first session all over again.
More jabs. But yeah, it's the jabs. It's the fundamentals of striking. Because I came from a boxing background, and it's all fundamentals of footwork, so speed, nice and crisp. But when Martin throws it, it's an MMA right hand. They don't necessarily throw it straight like a boxer would do. So he's got his angle, and I didn't want to change the way he throws his right hand because he's an MMA fighter. So yeah, I just came from a boxing perspective where everything is clean. So he just blended and put it all together. I guess when we did all those rounds and pads throughout those 5 years we were together.
Martin and Chrysler, was there ever a time where you considered pursuing boxing just in and of itself?
Yeah, like as soon as it was just like one of those times where you got a boxing coach now, I want to do boxing. But for me, at the time, we weren't allowed. Fari goes, no, stick to MMA, stick to what you know. And yeah, Chrysler, I think Chrysler at the time, he was encouraging, you should have a boxing fight. And some of the guys in our gym at the time, they did take up the boxing fights because boxing was our new thing. It's like we got a new toy. We're Chrysler at the gym now, and it's like everyone just started to adapt to boxing, and everyone wanted to do boxing. So some of the guys had boxing fights, but for myself, I would say, I was recommended not to and stick to what I know. And I just did that. But yeah, I never had a boxing fight. I did spar with other boxers and spar in general, boxing, but in terms of the competitive boxing, no.
What do you think about Martin as a boxer if he were to make that transition into boxing, Chrysler?
Ooh, it would be a hard fight. Everyone would be watching for his right hand. If Manny Pacquiao calls him out, I'll say, Martin, you got to jump in. You got to fight Manny Pacquiao. That's the fight I want to see.
Man, for real, you don't play boxing, man. Boxing is just like training in general. Guys that have been doing it their whole lives. Like for me, I use the boxing for MMA, But guys that strictly do boxing and boxing only, that's like you don't play with that, man. Like these guys work that craft and angles and everything like that on a daily basis. Where we split it up, boxing,
very technical,
jiu-jitsu, and wrestling, and a bit of everything.
It's crazy when you see dudes that that are good boxers that really understand angles, and like you try and speak to people that don't know, and they go, oh, blah blah blah. I won't say people's names or whatever, and I think like, dude, the understanding in the ring, like it's fucking completely different. Like
100%.
The angles and the way that they'll, and it doesn't matter. It's not like MMA because it's like 12 rounds, and you can win 8 of them, but there's like a different endurance as well. You know what I mean? Like with the body shots and the way they think and everything. And it's interesting to hear you talk like that because like it shows that you obviously have a very good boxing trainer. You understand, like you understand boxing and you understand.
Yeah, definitely, man.
But having that depth.
In terms of fighting in the ring, like having that boxer's mentality, that's where they're born and bred, in the ring. And for me, like when now that One Championship has events in the ring, I kind of have that boxing knowledge of how to cut off different angles now because we work a lot of boxing. We worked a lot in the ring. I've got another guy that we do striking with as well, Skinny Hussein. And
Skinny. I know Skinny and his brothers.
I work with Skinny a lot as well when I'm at home. So we just get a feel of a bit of everything, and we work off cutting off the ring, and just from a boxer's mentality because I do fight in the ring as well. So knowing how to cut off people, and it's not like a cage where you can actually circle out, and all you got to do is circle out, like, take 2 big steps, and you're back in the middle. Where the boxing ring is like you lean on them and everything like that. It's crazy.
The gloves makes a big difference. Having those bigger gloves in boxing. You can block punches, you can parry, you can block, compared to MMA gloves. All it takes is one punch.
MMA, there's no such thing as block. You're close and you're getting hit.
It's gonna go
Can
through.
you talk about that? Can you guys talk about the difference with the 4-ounce gloves or 6-ounce gloves in MMA? Usually it's 4 ounce. And the difference between that and the bigger gloves, 8 and 12s, 10s in boxing and sparring and fighting. And also like, what you were just talking then about, like how you block, like more. Can you shell up more, or do you? What do you do?
Yeah, so
you can't just do this in.
No way.
Sorry. Did you watch the fights on the weekend?
No, I didn't get to. I fell asleep. Yeah.
We were watching the heavyweights, Volkov and Walt Harris. Right, and Walt Harris. I'm not fucking criticizing him, so I don't want him to rip my fucking arm off and beat me with it. But it was like a few times, like he was shelling up like this, and this is at heavyweight, and me and Eli were doing like a fight companion. Eli's a boxing trainer as well, and we were just saying like, you can kind of do this in boxing because you have big gloves, but at heavyweight in the UFC is like 4 ounces, and I'm punching with 4 ounces. It's fucking 8 ounces. It's like. You got hit flush, like it's the same as getting hit flush with an 8-ounce glove, and you could tell that it was fucking getting through, So it was just an interesting anecdote that I was saying. But if you guys could discuss those things, that I'd love to hear it from your point of view. Either one of you.
Ounces and above, you give like that. You can shell up a bit more because you got the bigger glove, a bit more protection, like a smaller window for the glove to get through. But in terms of 4 ounces, man, it's like everything gets through. Basically, if you're in striking distance and they strike at a weird angle and they hit you like you can put your hands up like that, but there's still that middle gap. There's still the sides here that they can reach around. It's just 4 ounces. It's just nothing to play with. So in terms of being in an MMA fight, everything has to be very, very tight, as in like chin tucked. Everything is like moving. Elbows have to be in motion as well. Body movements, just to block. So it's basically like a whole body movement. Footwork has to be main key as well, not to get hit. 4 ounces, man. There's no blocking 4 ounces unless it's like it slaps off your forearms or anything like that. Every punch, I physically see it, and how I think of it. Like if this guy's gonna strike, that punch is going to get through. So it's up to me to footwork and head movement instead of focusing more on absorbing and blocking the shots. So that's how I get around of avoiding getting hit.
You know, the thing as well, like 4 ounce is just enough to protect your hand. Do you get what I mean? Like if it's bare knuckles and bare knuckles hit like the top of the head or something, your knuckles will break. But 4 ounce is just enough that it'll protect the hand, and the way that it's wrapped as well, protect the hands just enough to fuck up your head.
Yes.
You know, to give you the maximum amount of damage, you know, and the hand becomes like a weighted club, you know what I mean? You can still throw that fast and hard. It doesn't get slowed down by the gloves. What's your take on the gloves and that, Chrysler?
Oh, with that, you can, there's elbows that you can get through those MMA gloves. There's knees, there's foot. A foot can come between those MMA gloves. Whereas in boxing, you can still it's a lot bigger. You can defend with it. You can still pretty much rest with it and do your footwork. You're not expecting any kicks or elbows. That's why Martin's got a tough job fighting MMA. But again, it works. Yeah.
What about ring versus cage? Like, what do you prefer? Advantages and disadvantages? Because you guys in the cage, it's actually a circle. It is an actual circle. Am I correct? So you have no angles on the cage, like compared to like an octagon, say.
Yeah, definitely. Me personally, I love the cage. My last fight was in a ring, and every single time my opponent shot on me, it's like their first instinct, like because it's so open. When someone lifts you up or when someone drives you for a takedown, the first instinct is to grab onto something. That was for me anyway, and it was just instinct. Like he'd pick me up to take me down, and I was just like, oh, my arm got stuck. Like I was just like one of those ones where in a cage, if someone's going to take you down, I don't care if it hits the ground. I can use like wall work to get up. Whereas one championship, when you hit the ground, someone's on top of you, you're not allowed to use the ropes to get up. It's purely jiu-jitsu angles and sweeps just to get up. And with someone with a heavy tight wrestling game or jiu-jitsu game, when they're top game on top of you, you're not going to get it up. You're not going to get up at all. But for me personally, for the safety of myself, I'd rather the circle or the cage. Yeah.
How do you find it when you're working angles on the circular cage versus? I assume you've trained mainly in octagons because it's hard to get a circular cage. How do you find working those angles? Do you feel they make a difference, or the circle doesn't make a difference? I don't know.
Not necessarily makes a difference, man. Like realistically, if you're gonna cut somebody off, there's room for them to escape, so you can't really bum rush them and expect them to stay there. Everyone's gonna be moving, so you got to time everything. So you might hit him with a 1-2, and then usually people will follow up with 3 and 4s. You might hit him with a 1-2, slap him with a 3, and we'll see where they move. And then you can capitalize on the 4. Like it's more of a game of chess when it comes to using the circle. But at the end of the day, if you're going to come forward and they're going to be moving, it's someone's gas tank's going to run out real soon before they just come to a standstill and you just lay hands on them or wrestle with them.
What about you, Chrysler? What's your take on that? The ring versus the cage and the circle versus the octagon?
As an MMA fighter, for them, they would favor the cage. Obviously, I like boxing, so I like the ring. It's probably different to adjust if you're an MMA fighter fighting in the ring. As Martin said, he almost flew out of the ring, picked up. I like the ring for kickboxers and Muay Thai fights. But MMA, stick with it. Stick with the cage. It's just my take on that.
Is it with your traditional boxing background? You alluded before to feeling that you could cut the ring off a little bit easier in when you fought MMA in the ring. Would I be correct in that?
Yeah. So when I fought in the ring last fight, it was I found it so much easier to cut my opponents off. It was just more of the pressure. I'd pressure them into that corner, and every time they go to circle out, they can't circle out because they got to come towards me they got to close the distance towards me to actually get out of the corner. So it kind of favored in my perspective, where I just land like a big shot. At least I got a shot in, and I would continue that pressure and then push them into that little corner again for them to move forward and move out of the way. So when you're the hammer in a ring, it feels good. But when you're the nail, I can see why people don't really like it. So
getting stuck in the corner.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, MMA fighters wouldn't be used to getting out of that ring if you're stuck in the corner.
100%, man.
How much do you think it's an advantage that you have a traditional boxing kind of background in that you work so much at traditional boxing? Do you notice that a lot of guys don't have that boxing pedigree, so to speak? And
The Krauser?
both, either or.
Yeah, so me personally, when I find that MMA fighters tend to they stress a bit more when it comes to the ring. Like they don't know the angles, and if they're getting pressured back into the corner, then if I feel like their game plan is not necessarily out the window, but they're like, oh man, this guy's pressuring me. Like, where do I go from here? Like I'm in a corner now, and I don't want to get hit by one of his shots. And then they start to panic more and start doing like suicide shots and all that just to get out of trouble. But yeah, like in terms of boxers, they're just like, yeah, push me in the corner. Like I know how to get out of this easy and counter you and everything like that. But that's something that I've worked a lot on as well, getting out of corners. If we ever had to fight in the ring again. But yeah, it's just, I guess it's all preference. If whatever the day is for, like if you're set to fight in 8 weeks' time and they tell you yes, it's in the cage, then you work what you're best good at in the cage. But if it's in the ring, you'd want to work a lot more with boxers and kickboxers who know that whole scenario and how different people and everything like that. So,
do you notice, Chrysler, a big difference, like in guys that that fight MMA that don't have good boxing? Like they might hit hard, they might be tough guys, but you can tell that this guy hasn't actually worked boxing. Can you see that?
You can see on their footwork and their timing. You can also tell by their jab if they're not using their jabs a lot. Most of them are MMA because MMA they're really open. In boxing, you're very tight, covering your body, covering your chin. You're just right here, really tight. You're snapping all your jabs. And it's MMA. MMA is a bit different. They don't need to do boxing 5 times a week, as long as just to get the fundamentals of throwing those jabs and setting it up, maybe for your right hand or for your kicks straight after your jabs. I don't know. Yeah.
I see sometimes though with guys that they hit hard or whatever, but you see them in against like a good striker with good boxing or kickboxing pedigree or whatever, and it just fucking unravels, man. It's like, I don't know, it kind of looks like, to me, when I see people like that, it looks like a good blue belt in jiu-jitsu that's been rolling with blue belts and sometimes taps a purple belt, but then rolling with a black belt, and you're like, no, okay, fuck, different, Yeah. Sometimes you see that, like, dudes hit hard or whatever, and then they fight a good striker, and you just see the difference, like a big difference, and you can see it, like, not going to name the people, but I've seen it, like, with Martin, I've seen it with other people where, like, it looks good. The other fights have looked good, but if you're composed in that boxing range and you're composed in that range where, you know how to counter, you're just moving off a little bit, and you're countering them. It's like I like watching Martin's fights because I like that style.
Science,
What's that?
Sweet science. It's a sweet science,
man. It's like people don't understand it. Like I can't watch fights like at, say, for example, at the pub or something, because I want to say to people, did you see that? Did you fucking see what happened there? And obviously they didn't, so I can't watch it.
yeah.
I was going to say, Martin, so growing up, like your parents, who were they? What did they think of you fighting, you playing football, et cetera, et cetera? Sorry, one more thing.
Yes,
have you got a light? A light?
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Fuck, look at us, all Hollywood now. Yeah.
I was pretty dark outside. That's why I turned my light on.
Yeah, look at us. All right. Yeah, sorry. I grew. You know where I went to school, Martin? I went to school, Ashcroft High School. My sister went to Liverpool Girls. Yeah, I went to Ashcroft. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm a local boy. Where'd you go to school? Kingsgrove.
Kingsgrove High.
Kingsgrove High.
From 1991 to 1999.
And where did you live, Martin? Where did you live?
I live just off Sadler Avenue.
Did you live in Sadler Avenue?
Just off it. I was in Kennedy Street.
Me too. Where did you live?
Kennedy Street. So there's Insignia.
I know Insignia, yeah.
Yeah, and then the first street on the right is Kennedy Street.
I lived on Sutton Road in Ashcroft.
Sutton Road, yeah. Sutton Road, I know Sutton
Where the
Road.
shops are.
Yeah, where shops are. Oh, the Ashcroft shops there.
Ashcroft shops. Yeah.
Harry, you might know Harry. Harry's the hot chip owner.
I know Harry. I know, I'm not like mates with him, but I know him because he owned the shops the whole time.
That, like forever. He still owns it to this day. No, it's good, man. How good is that?
And his mum, Effie.
Yeah, Effie.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Did you used to go, like you obviously went to the shops?
I used to go there like every week after footy because I played for Ashcroft Stallions as well, under 13s.
Ashcroft Stallions, look at this guy.
Yeah, I played Ashcroft Stallions, and every single week after a game, we'll go there and get hot chips. It was like a thing, chips and gravy.
I'll take this opportunity to shout out Shane Fulmer, who hopefully will be watching this. His dad used to run Ashcroft Stallions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. I played, so who was my coach at the time? Lindsay.
Why do I know that name? What's his surname?
I forgot. I don't really know the last name, but he had like a few sons that ran other teams in Ashcroft Stallions as well. I don't know if he was high up there, but yeah, Lindsay was like the toughest of all toughest coaches that I've had for real. Even playing throughout Helmets and SG Ball, no one can compare to like Lindsay. He was like old school. He would make us like our training sessions. You guys play shit. So he would make us carry sandbags, run sandbags. We'd run the field up and back. We'd do squats, and then after that, we'd run Elizabeth Drive hills. Like see Elizabeth Drive?
I remember that.
Run there as a team, do 10 up and back, and then run back. And then by the time you're like, the next training session comes, I'm sore, I can't make it. And then he'll put you on the bench because you didn't come. Like it was one of those ones. Like he was strict of the strict, but yeah.
Hey, it's funny though. Like you remember that shit. You know what I mean? Like you remember those coaches. You might not have liked it. But I'm a firm believer in that. Like I'm a firm believer in like that shit. Like it builds your character, who you are.
That just builds character.
You know, and I see that.
At the time, I was like, man, this is fucking shit. Which coach makes us fucking do so much fucking do this shit? And at the time, yeah, it is conditioning, but you don't think it's conditioning. You think you're just getting punished because. And we went the whole year undefeated too, to mind you, and we lost the grand final. Like it was just, I don't know how we lost the grand final. We just choked under pressure. But the whole year we were smashing everyone 40 plus points. And we get to the grand final and we lost like by 2 tries. And it was like, the guy was like, how do you guys go undefeated for a whole year with 40 points on every single guys and lose the grand final? And I was just like, oh. I didn't know what to say. I was so angry at the time. My parents came and watched because my parents, they're immigrants, right? So they stuck to what they know, and that's just providing for the family. And so for me, I grew up with a lot of Australians who love rugby league from Australian background, and that's how I got into it at the States. One of my good friends at primary school, his dad came to school and we were playing after school, and he was like, oh man, you're pretty good, you want to come try out for my team? And that was Liverpool City. And so we went out and he picked me up. My parents never dropped me off, never picked me up. He came and picked me up every single day for training, or 3 times a day for training, and then he dropped me off and picked me up for the games as well. So it was like I had Brian as like a second father basically growing up, and then from there it was just I took off on my own feet. So he got me started. And then from there, I was just, love rugby league. But my parents were like old school. They work, they come home, they put food on the table, they go to sleep, and the next day is Groundhog Day. That's how they grew. My dad was a hustler, and that's how he hustled to put food on the table. And for me, it was just carefree. And I can't remember the last time I paid football registrations because our family we weren't rich, but we weren't like really, really poor. It was at that stage where we were managing to get by with my parents. It was 4 of us. I have 2 sisters and a brother. So my parents, all they did was work, and they provided for the family. And then occasionally we would have family come over, and then it would be like a family occasion. But other than that, man, they never had money for me to pay for footy registrations. I've always had either sponsors or the coach will pay for me. And that would keep me going playing the sport, which made me love the sport because it was like hassle free. But every time, you can't play this week because you haven't paid registration, it sank my heart. But the coaches always pulled through and paid for me. So
it's funny, like all those little things, like those coaches you have growing up that do that kind of shit. Like it just I was just telling my wife the other day about. I had a coach growing up. I was a basketball player. I played basketball growing up. Massive thing for Chrysler here being a Filipino.
Basketball was my first sport.
See, mate, I didn't even know that. I just fucking stereotyped, I was gonna add breakdancing and karaoke, but yeah, like I was playing basketball and I was telling my wife about this coach I had that. Like I played rep basketball and that. I don't know what I was doing. I was probably being a dickhead. And the guy told me off so fucking bad, man. This guy, and my wife's like, what'd you do? And I said like nothing. I just fucking stood there like hating the world, thinking fucking prick, you fucking told me off. I said all this. I didn't in my head. Obviously, I didn't say it to him. But like that shit stays with me today. When I'm doing something. And it's like, no, dude, you're the one being a dickhead. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, and it was true. Like, you didn't like it. And probably today, like, if you said something like that to a kid, maybe 17 years old, fuck, you probably lose your job. Yeah, and I took it to heart. I'm not going to lie. I fucking took it to heart.
I took it to heart too. I was like, oh, boys, I don't think I'm going to come back. I don't like this coach and all that shit. I would say all that stuff, but they're saying it obviously to slap you out of whatever you were doing at the time, So I say it like with my son now. I give him lectures here and there, and he looks at me like he hates me as well. I was like, man, I've been through what you go through, man. Like I'm not that old, man. I still know what you think. So,
and I think it's awesome though. I think that's that role, like of the coach. If you find a good coach that can play that role in that child, I think is really important. Like. Someone was asking me the other day because I'm going to put like my daughter in. I don't care what sport she does, but I'm going to put her in as many things as she can, and blah 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 blah. But that's the thing. Like I want her to find her feet. Like, and I want her to find like a coach that can play that role. That can. It's got nothing to do with me not being a good dad or my wife not being a good dad. But I think those people that come into your life, like the coaches that you had when you're 16, 17, or 13 or whatever. Because me, I'll tell you the truth, man. At 17. I thought I was the
shit.
Oh, mate, I would have fucking now. I think back, if I was that coach, I'd fucking probably hit me. Like yeah. I wasn't like a bad kid. I wasn't rude or bad or anything. But I would have just been like, like a fucking 17-year-old that was pretty good at a sport and thought he was better than everything else. And I think like if you don't have someone to check that kid. Because I didn't listen to my teachers. I probably didn't really listen to my parents at 17. I was 17, 18. I was like, my mind was on other shit. But my coach, he could fucking bench me, man. So he had fucking all the power in the world, He could bench me. Yeah. He could say whatever to me, and I just had to shut my mouth and put my head down. You know what I mean? And
it's a worst feeling, eh? Like you're getting ready to like. You put everything into the sport and you're getting ready to lead the team to freaking victory, and then he comes in and goes, hey, where were you training? I was sick. I couldn't make it, or I couldn't get a ride, or couldn't get left dropped off or anything like that. And he goes, well, you didn't come training. You're starting off the bench. And usually, like, you get so cut, like, fuck, he started me on the bench. And it's like the first 5-10 minutes, you're like, put me on. And then he's looking at you like, this will make you pay a lesson, like, learn your lesson 100%. To turn up the shit, man. Like, yeah, keep me punctual.
But having a coach that'll do that, because not all the coaches will.
Even staying off for the first 5 minutes.
Sorry, you cut out. You kind of cut out. I didn't hear.
Yeah, so when like he would say like you learn your lesson, make sure you turn up to training, and like for me, staying off for the 5-10 minutes, the first half, 5-10 minutes, you're anticipating like put me out there, but it's just like them, then they're checking you, they're chin checking you, making sure you're responsible and punctual. But yeah.
How much does that stay now in your head? Like does that guy come into your head ever?
Always, man. I always think about like the majority of my coaches. One of them, he basically took a bullet for me when it came to me being a wild kid. But yeah, he passed away, rest his soul. But yeah, man, it was like every single one of my coaches, the main ones that put shit on me, I remember. But that I always think like they put shit on me because it was my fault. It wasn't them picking on me or anything like that. But at the time when it happened, I was like, man, what the fuck is this going on about? Like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? I fucking led us to fucking victory fucking the last 10 weeks, man. And this guy's fucking giving me shit. Like, what the fuck? That's how I would think. But back then, I was like, what the fuck's his problem? But then rethinking the whole situation, now that I'm much more wiser, I'm like, oh, man, I would have slapped the shit out of me back then as well. So.
Fuck, mate. I feel you. You just mentioned then a second ago, you said he basically took a bullet for me. Did you mean that literally, or did you mean that?
No. Like, so I don't play rugby league no more, so it is what it is. But our season had finished in first division. I played for Featherweight Pats. We didn't make the finals, so it finished. And all my friends, all the boys that I played with, that I was friends with, like we were on a very, very close occasion. They played for Mounties, and they're playing their last game of the comp. And so one of the guys that I supposedly looked like only because he was Asian couldn't make it, and he was part of that group as well. So I said to like this coach, I grew up with him. Just that 1 year that I decided to go and play with a Division 1 team because these guys were Division 2.
How old were you in this stage?
I was 16, no 17. Yeah, and then so I said to him, let me jump and see how when they before you walk out onto the field, they check their registration cards, they check your boots and everything like that. Like I don't know. I was like, show me the photo, and I tried to put the same face on. And the guy that was checking it, he was young. He looked at it, and goes, yep. And he called from 1 all the way to 17, and he walked away. And I was like, oh shit, I'm playing a game. I'm not even registered onto this team. I'm playing under someone else's name. And so in that game,
how much did the guy look like you, other than just being Asian?
Mate, completely out of the water, like different. Like he looked like a deer, and I was like a tuna in the water. Like that's how different it was. And so, and just letting you know, like he was part of our group of boys as well. He never scored a try all season, and in that game, he scored 5 tries. Never scored a try all season. In that game, he scored 5 tries. I scored 5 tries. We smashed Canley Vale Cookers by like 60 odd points. And the manager of Mounties, the team that I was playing for, and we won. He lived right behind me in my Sadleir house, and he's like, that kid is not. How does that kid play for this team? Who checked the registration card? He lives right behind me. Like he knows me. Like he was literally my neighbor, the manager of that team. And I was like, and straight after we won, we shook the other team's hand. He goes, hey, you come over here like that. And I looked like I just had stolen something. So I was like, huh, and I ran. I bolted for it. I took off the jersey and I ran. And so the next week, I don't know. We had like one more game. I was playing for. Yeah, we had one more game for somewhere, and then he was at that game. I was playing for Hinchinbrook Hornets that year, and I was at that game, and I don't know, was it Pats or Hinchinbrook Hornets? One of them. I turned up to the game, and he was there. He was saying, "This gentleman can't play. He played for Mounties last week. It's with violations." And I was like, "What are you on about, man? I was here last week. I was playing with these guys." My coach was like, "He was with me last week, man. He wasn't with you, but I was actually on the field, and he remembers everything." It was such like a trip out. The officials came to the game. Like it was like a big meeting before we were about to head on out to the field. I remember everything by play, man. It was so crazy. But I was like, we ended up playing that game, and they ended up just dropping everything. And that coach that took the bullet for me, he got suspended for life.
Oh shit!
Oh, so you got found out.
Yeah, he supposedly found me out. I didn't get punished for it, but he took the He took the bullet for it. He just goes, yeah, it was my fault or whatever it was. I'm not too sure it was. But Baxter, Baxter's he took the bullet, man, and he got sacked for a long time, man.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Wow.
man, that's why. Because he was one of those guys that like I looked up to as a father, and he basically knew the talent that I had and how young and dumb and naive I was, but he believed in me, and then so if I was like a shit player, I'm sure he would have been like, yeah, he's not any good talent. Yeah, that was him. That you can take him and blah blah blah. But he knew, like, at the time I was young and dumb, but I was kind of talented in the rugby league department. So yeah.
So all right, let's change things, because what happens fight day? What happens fight day, and when does fight day start for you? Like I spoke to, I've had heaps of different guys on the podcast. I had Cedric Dumbe on the podcast. He's defending his Glory welterweight title, and for him, fight day starts a week early. And I've had like a whole different bunch of guys. Benedict Bowie, his fight day starts the day before. Can you talk us through when your fight day starts and what happens, etc.? You're very, very relaxed now, like 4 days out. Like a lot of people are not this relaxed, and I've seen this many, many times. So talk us through when fight day starts for you and what does that mean?
Yeah, so for me, coming into fight week, I mean, I've been so switched on for the last 8 weeks. I like to tone it down, taper off. Usually I'd spend a week with my family just to forget about like the fight camp. It's like, yeah, I'm switched on. I'm mentally prepared. My body's physically prepared. But the mental aspect of, I've mentally burnt myself out in previous fights, and it's no good. It shows off in your performance. So in terms of fight week, like, yeah, I constantly think about the fights, but I like to take a step back and just chill. And then when it comes to training at night, I switch on kill or be killed mode, and then I switch off and I go to sleep, and the next day starts. I don't switch on completely thinking about my opponent, completely thinking about him until maybe after weigh-in day. So after weigh-in day, we train. Afterwards, we have a big meal as a family. We train. I'm switched on. The next day when I wake up, my phone's turned off. Everything is off, and all day I'm just thinking about this guy, ready to go. And then so my fights are usually late. I usually have a nap throughout the day, and then I wake up and it's ready to go. I mean, sometimes it's like the day before fight day. Some days it's fight day, but I'm always mentally thinking about him, but just little bits and pieces. Like if I'm thinking about him too much, then I'll change the subject and I'll do something to distract myself, so I don't mentally burn myself out.
What happens? Like, what are the feelings you're feeling when they wrap your hands up? And I don't know, I've never been at ONE FC, but UFC, they wrap your hands up. You've got your hands wrapped. It's your 20, 30 minutes before you go on, or maybe even a little more. Then the guy comes in and says 5 minutes, etc. I'm assuming this is the equivalent of this. Are the nerves peaking yet? When are the nerves peaking? Do you still get very nervous? Talk us through that.
For me, it's like when it comes to that nervous side of things, I don't really get nervous anymore. I think the first 5 to 10 fights, I used to get so nervous, like before anything, and I would, like, as I said, mentally burn myself out, and it wasn't good for myself. So for me, it's like, okay, 5 minutes, all right, it's happening. Like in my head now, I'm like, I visualized it for so long, it's happening right now. So it's all about adapting it. Getting myself psyched up, walking out there, locking onto my opponent, and I say to myself, you got to do this. You got to do this. What's your purpose? What are you doing it for? Who are you doing it for? What do you want in life? Those are the questions you ask yourself just before you walk out. Okay, now it's time to answer it, and your opponent is the answer. Take him out.
When is the fight begin? Does the fight begin once you get in that cage or octagon or ring? Or does the fight begin when the guy first touches you? When do you switch from Martin Nguyen, this gentleman that we see now, to Martin Nguyen I don't know what's happening anymore. It's on.
Yeah, so for me, it's like when they start announcing our names, I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the guy you gotta take out. This is the guy that's gonna kill you. He's willing to hurt you. He's willing to do everything, to take everything that you work so hard for. You look at him in his eyes, and you just go, man, I'm gonna kill you right now. This is my plan. I'm gonna go in there. I want to hurt you right now, and I'm here now. They announce the names. I'm like, it's a fight now. So regardless if I land the first punch or he lands the first punch, it's right then and there. It's you're in the wilderness on your own, and it's time to eat. That's how I think, anyway.
What's your take on fight day, fight week, Chrysler, and how do you see it from your perspective? And what are the nerves like for you? Because a lot of people think the guys don't feel nerves, but people feel nerves.
Oh yeah, with Martin, the fight week for him is very relaxed. He's surrounded by good guys. We have a laugh. But on fight day, Martin switches on. It's a different Martin on that day. You can tell, especially when we're getting picked up, get transferred, and go to the stadium. He's completely switched on, and especially when through the walkout, I think that really gives him that energy and gives him that purpose of why he's there. We love that walkout.
Are you nervous?
That walkout is no level.
Yeah, 100%.
Are you nervous, Chrysler?
His song comes on. Me, no, I'm not nothing to be nervous about. I fully trust Martin. Probably the first couple of fights before he had the title, I was nervous for him. But now I just trust Martin. I know he's going to do the job. He's just on another level, especially where he is now, training with the best, Henry Hoof, and the guys over there. It's like a training with NBA All-Stars. Now it's just unreal where he's at now.
How did this happen with 1FC? Like, how did you sign with 1FC? Did you want to fight in the UFC, or would you? I guess I know the answer, but I'm going to throw it out there anyways. Like, if there was ever a cross-promotional thing, would you welcome that challenge?
Definitely, 100%, man. How one championship came about was the ultimate goal. Everyone's ultimate goal when starting off as a martial artist is the UFC, because that's what was going around at the time. Back then, everything was UFC. So in my head, I was like, okay, I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna get my shot in the UFC. But right now, I just gotta focus on this title fight. And the title fight I had at the time was for the Brace Featherweight title.
I remember that one.
I was fighting Luke Standing. It was my first title ever that I was fighting for. And at that time, one championship, which was called 1FC at the time, they had like a summit, bringing all the gyms and teams and promotions together to find like the best fighters around the world. And Brace had signed under one championship as like an affiliate, and I didn't know all of this. I was just told afterwards, and so I was getting prepared for Luke Standing. Man, he was 4-0. He was the highest prospect of the featherweights at that time, and he was apparently bound for good. He was bound for good places with his record training under Elvis and Perosh, their SPMA at that time. And so I took the fight, and it was that gym rivalry, KMA versus SPMA. We were right across the road from each other. I'm like, man, we can just fight in the middle of George Street. Why don't we go to Canberra to fight, right? And so, that fight, thankfully enough, ended up in my favor. And straight after the fight, Kaya, the owner of Brace, came through and he goes, as everyone, he got on the mic, he goes, after I got my belt and everything, he goes, as everyone knows, we just signed an affiliate to 1FC, and 1FC would love to offer Martin this contract, the winner of this fight, a contract. And I was like, in my head, I was like, what the hell? And everyone was like, oh, 1FC is like a huge, I never knew who they were or what they did or anything like that. And so I got the contract, and I was like, oh man, this is like international level now. I started searching him up on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is like international fights. I'm not like on the local scenes, or I'm not flying down to Melbourne or anything like that for fights like on the local scene. Now I'm actually going overseas, where you're fighting guys that are doing the same thing as you, but in another country, and you don't know the levels, like if it's a good level or if it's not level, if you're getting fed to the wolves or not, like you don't know. And so I went into that first fight under ONE FC at that time, blinded by my opponent. Like, I went online, I could not find. He was 5-0, Filipino, 5-0, nothing on him on the net, nothing on him at all. And I was like, apparently, all I knew from him was he had his record, in which 2 or 3 of them was via submission, but he was a boxer. So I was like, in my head, I was like, what is he, a boxer or what is he? Like a striker, a grappler? I don't know what he is. And I went into that fight not knowing what he was, what he specialized at. And yeah, just trusted my skills. And thank God it worked my way.
What's ONE FC like? What's ONE FC like to fight for? What are they like as an organization, et cetera, et cetera?
Outstanding organization, man. For me, purposely, why I stay here is because they look after me. I did my time. I fought the best guys at the time to work out. I fought the best guys now, up until now. Like for defending my titles, I had that one in 2018, 17 to 18. I had 5 title fights in 11 months. So I was constantly being given fights, and I was constantly being able to provide for my family. And that's the main thing for me. If you can give me a word that you can help me out by giving me fights, and helping me out by looking after my family, then I'm a pretty loyal guy. I'll stay with you. Like, there's always an urge for people to say, like, will you ever go to the UFC or UFC this, or would you ever focus on going to another promotion? That's the main questions that they ask me. And for me, I'm like, I made a promise to myself, man. Like, I've already worked my way so high in one championship, and I'm getting looked after so well. And that's the main thing, my family having food on the table. So for me, it's until the wheels fall off, man. Until one championship says, all right, madam, we don't need your services no more. And if I'm still in a peak of my fighting career, then I would venture on and probably try out for the UFC. But until then, until they say they don't need me no more, I'm with one championship.
How do you? What's your experience with the organization? Like, I'm saying this because from the outside, it looks fantastic. It looks really good. I think I'm just saying my thing. It doesn't sound like I'm fucking trying to make a controversy, because I'm not. I like the whole thing with ONE FC. I find it. It's like, it seems to have a little bit more like. It's a great show. It's a great spectacle, but it doesn't have that same, like the UFC. To me personally, and I'm no fucking angel, but the trash talking and the thing, it's become like bigger than the fight almost. Do you get what I mean? And I'm not one that's like, oh my god, they said a swear word. That's not what worries me. But it's just become a thing where it's not even like, it's almost toxic, man, in my opinion. Like it's not even about the fight anymore. It's like, if I can get on there now, and if I've got a big name and I say racist shit, stuff about your family, it's all good. I'm building the fight. And that honestly makes me fucking not interested. I can appreciate people with good sense of humor, people that are quick-witted. You know what I mean? Like, you give each other shit. Like, you know, I grew up all around a whole group of boys, you know, that none of them were angels. And I'm all for giving each other shit, you know, but there's just shit that I just think, like, man, you're grown men, you're saying shit about each other's wives and that, like, nah.
But the main thing is, like, you don't know them. Like, you don't know them from a bar of sober. You don't know their struggles. You don't know their journey. You don't know anything about them, but you start talking about it. But one thing Henry told us today, in which I kind of, it made me like take a step back and realize that, like, he said you sign a contract, right, to fight, and that contract says that you get paid to do this, which is just fighting. In terms of promoting the fight, that's the promoter's job. That's the promoter's job to promote the fight. Like, that's not your job. You're not going to get paid any extra. You're not going to pay any less to promote the fight or not. It's only up to you to. If you want to promote the fight, you're going to waste your own energy, and you're going to be doing his job, in which he's going to get paid for what you're going to say. Like, it's all like, in the words of those lines. And I was like, man, for me, I'm not the one to talk shit. I'm not the one to hype fights. I let my fighting style bring in the fans, and that's what I feel that has gotten me my followers, just my fighting style. I really keep to myself. I don't really talk shit about anyone. the moment those cage doors shuts, it's still going to be the same scenario, whether we like it or not. It's you're here to hurt me, and I'm here to hurt you. Like it's, you saying words to hype up the fight for other people to come in, it's not going to get us more money in our pockets. And we sign the contract. This is how much we're going to get paid, and that's it.
How do you feel about the promotion and whatnot, Chrysler?
Yeah, I love it. Especially here in Asia, you get to travel up here. It's pretty close. The way they do things, it's organized. They value the martial arts, the values of respect and honor. They look at people's lives from where they started from. It's a good organization. I love being here. I love the fight week. I love it when Martin fights and everybody else. You get to see all the guys here, the Asian fighters, the Filipino fighters. Everyone's here. It's a good atmosphere.
What's the weight cutting process like? Because I know you have to weigh in hydrated, but people still cut weight. You just have to be hydrated. Can you explain to us what the whole process is like? Because it's not easy for you to get down to bantamweight. So can you talk to us about the whole thing?
Yeah, so in terms of my weight class now for featherweight, I walk around 70 kilos maximum. I'll be is like 74, but that's like out of shape. In terms of me training every single day, fight camp days, I'm 70 kilos walking around. So that's like it's for cutting for featherweight. I don't really cut. I just eat whatever I want, train hard, and I'm on weight. But in terms of if I ever was to go back down to bantamweight, I would need a minimum to feel my best. A minimum of 3 months, so 12 weeks to prepare. 8 weeks, I'd say more to lose the weight, which is 6 kilos. But in terms of so for 70, it's about 4 kilos. 8 weeks to lose 4 kilos, and the rest of the 4 weeks, so my body gets used to moving around at that weight. And yeah, it's a long time. Like I asked for a long time, but I learned the hard way. My last bantamweight fight, I lost 6 kilos in 7 weeks, and I felt the worst I've ever felt.
But how do you lose that weight and you're still hydrated?
So it was dieting. It was more based on diets and eating right and training consecutively, just having like smaller meals, smaller portion meals. Everything was sorted out like that.
That sounds shit, man. That sounds awful.
Worst, the absolute worst. Give me time. They're hitting us training.
All good. Can I ask you one question before you go? Just about your opponent. How do you feel? What do you think? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, I think he is a high caliber opponent. I think he is a very well-rounded fighter. He's worked his way up to fight me for the title. But I mean, it's just like any other one of my opponents. I put him at the highest of the high. This guy has world championship credentials. He's here to take everything that I've worked so hard for. So it's up to me to defend my throne and take home what's mine.
How big are you in Vietnam?
In Vietnam, I'm huge. In Vietnam, there's a lot of Vietnamese followers. I'm basically, other than Kang Lee, one of the well-known mixed martial arts fighters. My opponent is Vietnamese as well, but I wouldn't say that more people know him more than me. But yeah, in terms, I was one of the biggest fighters coming up now. So,
like, if you go to Vietnam, you get mobbed.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, people know who I am. Definitely.
And in Australia?
And in Australia, I like to keep it low key. No one knows who I am. Like, and I don't mind that. Like, going overseas, I get mobbed overseas. Like, it is what it is. It's fight week, and people want to get in there and want to know who you are and everything like that. And when I go home to Australia, no one knows me with a bar of soap, and I feel good. I feel comfortable, and I feel good with that because I can live my life and not be judged, from my popularity or my superstardom or whatever like that.
Dude, fucking, it would be shit. Like, I remember just being with Rob and people, like in Australia, people would come up to him, like he'd be holding his baby or something, and like say he fucking lost a fight or whatever, and people would come up and be like, you should have thrown the jab, Rob, blah, 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 this and that. And I think, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what? You know, like, or did you think, why didn't you think about doing this or doing that? Or, can I get a picture? And his kid's fucking, he's got like 4 kids. His kids, one kid's crying, the other kid's climbing a tree, the other kid's fucking trying to run across the road. And he's got
it's the worst, man.
Fuck.
No privacy.
Terrible, man. Terrible. Now, hey, man, I don't want to take up any more of your time, but both of you guys, thank you so much. I wish you the very best. I will definitely be watching. Where can people follow you guys?
For me, it's on Instagram. That's where my main platform is at It's Martin. I'll have a Facebook page as well, Martin The Situation Nguyen. And on Twitter, I have it's Martin Nguyen MMA.
Chrysler?
And me, just Chrysler De Castro on Instagram.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much, man. This has been awesome. Thanks you so much. I wish you the
Thanks
very
for
best.
having us.
And hope you smash him, man. Thank you.